Hey guys, wanted to go ahead and talk about something entirely random here today. I wanted to go ahead and talk about mice and to go from there. For context, I just basically wanted to talk about some of my favorite mice that works for my hand. I'll do the measurements. So I think I'm a 19 by 9, but I'm not entirely sure. So I think the way you're supposed to do it, you're supposed to measure it right about there, right? So that's like 9.5 that way. And then this way, now I don't know whether it's supposed to start right here or right here, but if you go right about here, that's about, is that 18? I'll say that's about 18, or is that maybe like 18, right? And then the way I typically kind of hold my hand, I don't know whether, or hold the mouse, I don't know whether it's called a palm grip or a claw grip or whatever, but this is kind of how I hold it. So my finger is always right on the scroll wheel, and I always usually kind of hold it like this. And it's always like this. So if I was going to hold it like that, that's how I hold that. If I was going to hold this, I kind of hold it like this. If I was going to hold this, I kind of hold it like this. Like, I don't know whether that's a palm grip or whatever, but I basically want to talk about different mice I've tried and different mice that I've tested out that I didn't like, and to go from there. It's funny because I got into this rabbit hole because, I shit you not, I'm not even kidding. Someone said, "You're like the Boardsy of microphones." And I was like, who's Boardsy?
Yo, what's good, YouTube? It's Boardsy. This is going to be my review of the Pulsar X2 Crazy.
And I started typing in Boardsy, and he's a mouse person. And then I was like watching his channel, and I was like, holy shit, I should check out these mice. So I started buying some mice that he's been recommending. And yeah, so I'm going to talk about my thoughts and to go from there. Okay, so even to this very day, the Logitech MX Master 3 is one of my favorite mice in general. This is actually one of the most comfortable mice I have, and I have one for work, and I have one in my just for like my other desk. So basically, this is just really, really handy for productivity. What's really cool also is this here, which is the horizontal scroll. So this is good if you're looking at like Excel sheets, but this is also good if you're editing audio. You just go, this is just so handy right here, right? So, but this is the best comfort. And one of the best ways, my friend kind of explained it to me, like why this is so comfortable. It's because it fills your hand. You know what I mean? Like, because when you use a mouse and you're going like this, then it's not comfortable. But this kind of fills your hand, and that's why I really like this. And I do have two of these, and even to this very day, after testing many, many different mice, I find that this is really good for comfort. However, it is pretty clunky and heavy. But for work, like especially like I would say, not gaming. Okay, this is not really good for gaming, but for like Excel sheets or editing audio or stocks or anything like that. Because I'm constantly looking at the stock market like this. Now the other mouse I want to talk about is two different mice that I actually really like, and this is the DeathAdder V3 Pro and the DeathAdder V3 Hyperlink or something like that. It's called Hyperspeed. Now, when you actually look at the charts and there's like graphs of it, this is literally the same mouse, but just shrunk just a little bit. So it's just like literally just a little bit smaller, but it's pretty much the same mouse. Now, what I will say is I did buy both, and I did keep both, but at the end, the one I keep using the most is the DeathAdder V3 Pro. It is just a little bit bigger, but it just for my hands, it just seems to work for what I use it all the time. And spoiler alert, this is my favorite mouse out of everything I've tested so far. So there's that. The next one that I wanted to check out is the Roccat Kone Air Pro. A lot of people mentioned this mouse, and the reason I wanted to get this is because a lot of people were saying it's just like the MX 518, and I love the freaking MX 518. I wish they had a wireless version of the MX 518. The MX 518, I mean, I've always used that mouse, and I was really sad when it just discontinued. And they say that this is kind of like the wireless version of it. It's not. The MX 518 still is better than this. And although this is pretty comfortable, and keep in mind, I'm not a gamer really, so like I don't really care about the clicks, and I just look at the shape. Although I think this is a good shape, I still think the DeathAdder V3 Pro is a better fit for my hands. So for me, but it's just enough. It's just enough where I won't return it. And if you know me, I buy a lot of stuff, but if it doesn't if it's like second best, I return it. Well, this is one of those where I'm like, no, it's good enough to keep, because I just kind of like fiddle faddle, because the profiles are just different enough that I like to rotate between here and there. right? But overall, if I had to choose, no issues whatsoever, I would choose the DeathAdder V3 Pro. Okay, so now let's go over travel mice. And so these are 3 different travel mice that I like to use. So this is the Logitech Pebble. Now, what sucks about this mouse is that basically this thing comes off so easily. However, this is extremely, I can't explain it. I can't explain why. This is much more comfortable than the Orochi V2. The Orochi V2, I felt like I was like going like this. And I should go over the list of mice I didn't like. I didn't like the Viper, all Viper, DeathAdder Vipers, like all of them. They're too small for my hand. G502 and the Basilisk, they are the same shape. I didn't like any of these. They were too big, just on the side, where it actually started to hurt my shoulder. The Orochi V2, as I mentioned, it's kind of like a really tiny, almost like a really tiny mouse. Really, just after a while, it starts to hurt your. But what I liked about the Orochi V2, it's kind of like, it's very slicey. Like you go like this, it's so precise. But it's just like, it's very uncomfortable over time. The MX Anywhere 3, I did not like it. And I made a video on this. The MX Anywhere 3 and the MX Anywhere 2 are different. The MX Anywhere 2 is just a smidge bigger, and it's much more comfortable for my hands. The Microsoft Arc, I used to have that. It's like this mouse, and it goes flat. Terrible for ergonomics. I do not recommend that. The Microsoft Sculpt mouse, I've bought it 6 times. It's like this big ball. The problem is it's discontinued. And the reason I bought it 6 times is that the pointer would actually kind of bust and not work after a while, and it would miss clicks. And there's a ton of videos showing like that it has that problem, but like the mouse was so good, I kept buying it. But after a while, they stopped selling it. So that's that. The Vertical Advance by Logitech, I don't like that. It just doesn't fit naturally for my hand. The G Pro Wireless, I gave that away. It just, you know what it is that I thought it was basically a wireless version of the MX518 and it'd be super comfortable. It's not. And I just found I didn't like it. The MX518, I put checks all across the board. I love this mouse, but it's discontinued. If Logitech, you know what Logitech should do? They should make a wireless version of the MX518. I mean, I don't know why they don't, but they totally should. And just do it right. Just literally make it the exact same shape of the MX518 and make it wireless. But I'm wondering whether they're worried that it will cannibalize their sales or something of their other mice, but they really should do it. I mean, okay. I tried the Logitech M510 and I didn't like it. There were 2 other Logitech mice I've actually reviewed as well. I forgot the names of it. The only key difference is that like they were like, but I didn't like those either. Okay, now going back to these 3. What I like about this mice is that it's really, really nice and portable. This actually works on glass. So I found myself kind of like, oh, this is cool. I can't make a long review on this because I only use this for short stints for travel, when I'm just browsing around. But I can't talk about it for long stints. So I can't say one way or another, but it's been solid for travel. Really lightweight, about the same weight as this. I can talk about this. This mouse is, I can't explain it. It's extremely ergonomic. And I have been using this actually like during work, like for long sessions, and it does work. But after a while, as all things eventually starts to like, it hurts like right here. But in general, like this is a excellent travel mouse. I definitely recommend it. Now, the flaw of this mouse is that it doesn't work on glass. So you do need to bring a mouse pad or bring some sort of surface where it will work on there. It won't work on glass. But when I need to bring a travel mouse, I'm kind of like, I really like this mouse. Okay. Next mouse I want to say that I really like for a travel mouse is actually, believe it or not, it's the old MX Anywhere 2. Now, this is actually really old. This uses USB mini, it's not even USB-C. And that's annoying because that means you need to bring like a little adapter for this. But I found that this was better than the MX Anywhere 3. And I can't say with certainty whether this is more ergonomic than this because I haven't used this for long stints. But what I can say is this is definitely, the MX Anywhere 2 is much more comfortable than the MX Anywhere 3. This is much more comfortable than the Orochi V2 for my hands. In fact, both of these are comfortable for my hands for Orochi V2. So, okay, now let's get back to the drawing board. What are my overall favorites? So if I had to choose, so this is for general work, right? Like total work, I would use the MX Master 3, no doubt. For everything, like all across the board, my favorite of all mice, excluding, I would say, travel, I would say the DeathAdder V3 Pro. And I have used this as many hours as the the MX Master 3, and I find that this is much more comfortable. But this little scroll wheel is just tough. It's just awesome. But what I also like is that these two profiles are so vastly different, where it kind of makes your hand kind of reset, and you know what I mean? So your hands never really hurt when you keep switching off between these two different mice. They're so vastly different. In terms of travel mice, these are two of my favorites. I have used hours upon hours with this mouse. I can definitely vouch for this as a travel mouse, and it's almost borderline a decent enough primary mouse. But obviously, you definitely want to go with one of these